Hey everybody, this is Justin from Remodelaholic. Today I'm going to show you how I'm going to build this waterfall console table. We're going to use plywood and we're going to sandwich the plywood together so it's 1.5 inches thick. It's going to be 30 inches tall, 48 inches long, and 15 inches deep. And we're going to be able to make this out of one sheet of 4x8 plywood. We're going to use glue to sandwich the plywood together, and we're going to use biscuit joints on this mitered edge here. Inside there we're going to put biscuits to give it a really tight joint. I'm going to cut this up to some smaller manageable pieces so that I can make some nice accurate cuts on the table saw. I'm going to do about every 16 inches. This doesn't have to be perfect, because we're going to cut it down to size once we sandwich all the plywood together. So I'm going to cut it in 3 pieces, long ways, and then I'm going to cut it in half. Then it's easier to use in a small shop.
You want to wear safety glasses for it too?
Yes. Always be safe. So I'm putting these underneath when I cut this way so the board doesn't just fall down after I cut it. Now I have 2 50-inch pieces for the top that we'll glue together. 2 less than 50 inches. These only have to be 30 inches high for the legs, but they're 46. I don't have to glue this entire board, so I'm just going to glue this portion of it. And then we'll cut that off at an angle. So I'm going to try to get glue up on the edges really good, because I want that to kind of squeeze out to make sure it closes the gap when it glues together, so we don't have to fill in between the gap. Just going to use a lot of glue. I'm using this Elmer's Carpenter's wood glue. It's waterproof, stainable. This table might be outside at one point, and we might finish it so that it can get wet. These might have to clamp for about 30 to 45 minutes until you start to see the glue dry on the edges. So I'm going to clean up my edges a little bit, just with this little rasper tool. Some of the glue, when it gets pressed, just kind of dries in a clump, so I'm just going to scrape it off. So I'll set my saw blade just above, 1/4 inch above the thickness of the wood. I'm going to cut all 3 of these to width. First I'm going to cut off this side, and then I'm going to cut it one more time to the final width. Now that I have the one side cut, I'm going to cut the other side, and this side's going to be at 15 inches, this last cut, so that it'll cut off the other side nice and flat with the sharp blade, and then we'll be able to start cutting things to length. I'm just going to label these down here so I don't mess up. So I just drew that so I can remember that's the angle that I'm trying to cut. So this is going to be kind of tricky. I'm going to set up the fence so that this top board is going to slide up against it, and then I'm going to put this underneath when I can get it in there. Let's see if I can. Okay, I guess I have enough room. So this is going to kind of create a fence guide as I'm pushing it through, and then this will bump up against here to keep it from moving. If you have a second helper on the back side as the wood comes out to help hold and support that, it's a good idea. but always be extra careful when you're working with the table saw. So we just need to make 3 more cuts, 2 on the top and then 1 on the other leg. So now we're gonna make the last cut. On the legs, we just need to cut off the bottom so that they're at the right length. So we decided to use biscuit joints for this mitered joint, okay? So we have this biscuit joiner, it's by Ryobi. It's gonna route out just a little groove inside the middle of this mitered edge. And then this piece will sit in there like that. We'll put glue in it all the way around it, glue all over this, and then glue it to the top of the table. But first, I've got to make all the cuts for these. So I'm going to do about four biscuits per joint. Use about a little over 2 inches long. I'm just going to mark out where those go and we'll cut them. So I made a mark every 3 inches. Because this is 15 inches, we can divide it up into 3. So I'm going to do 4 biscuits. Right in here. So I drew a line there because I need a guide when I'm using this. I set this at 45 degrees, this angle here, and I have the depth of, well, it's for a 1.5 inch board, so it should go about in the center. But it's pretty nice, so we have to make sure we're cutting the exact location on all of these mitered cuts, so when we put them together, they'll line up properly. So the nice thing about a biscuit joint is you don't see any of the joints. So you just want to make sure these edges are flush with each other. I'm going to let gravity kind of hold it down. And then when I put this other leg on here, I'm going to screw on a couple braces to make sure they're square and that they glue in the right spot. So I cut these at 48 inches, so the length of the table. And this will help me to make sure that the legs are glued on square. And then one way to check for square is to measure on a diagonal. So I'm going to screw this into this frame here so I don't have to put a lot of screws. Now that this is all glued and dried, we've let it sit for quite a while actually, a little bit less than a day. I just wanted to make sure this joint was really nice and dry and strong. So now we're going to take this wood filler, we're going to fill in some of these big gaps that just comes with using plywood. We don't have a lot, but we'll do the front and the back, and then after that's all dried, we'll just do our finish sanding and decide whether we want to finish it or not, or just leave it as is. We're going to use Elmer's Pro Bond wood filler. It's a natural color that'll work well with the plywood, and it's for interior or exterior use. This might take a little bit longer to dry because it's so deep, but I like the look of having a nice smooth finish. All right, now that I patched where I patched, I let it dry long enough that it's nice and hard. I'll be able to go through and sand it. Some of these deep spots might be a little damp, we'll see. But I'm gonna sand it first with the belt sander. That's gonna get everything sanded down to a nice even plane. Take this and just kind of knock off the edges a little bit so they're not so sharp, but they're kind of blunted and smooth to the touch. With the belt sander, This is like an 80 or 60 grit sandpaper, so it really takes off a lot of wood as you go. So I'm just trying to be really steady and keeping it moving so it doesn't create any bumps along the way, and then trying to keep it nice and square. Because if I rotate it off this way or that way, it'll really take off that edge really fast. If you do have any questions, or if you have any tips for me, some things that would be helpful about any of this, just put a comment down below and we'll respond to you. That's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to like it and subscribe for more. See you next time.